Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Apex World on Air show. First of all, a couple of news. We now have 2,069 users registered. Wow, great. Keep on registering, you get the newsletter and we can inform you and you get the Slack account and everything. And there's also something new. We have new plugin functions, which are Daniel put some effort into it, and now we can, when you have inserted a plugin, people can click on your name and you see the profile page. And now we also have, you can also bring in your home page, your Twitter handle, and the most important thing, a donation link. I want to create a little bit of a mind change regarding to plugins, because I think when we are using plugins in production and at the customer side, and we're gaining real value out of it and we get money for it, I think we really should share it with the plugin developer. We all want the plugins to be maintained and motivate the plugin developers to do new versions. I just talked to Daniel, was with him, with the customer, still at the customer side, and he said it's pretty hard. He now has 11 plugins on Apex World, and to keep up with them and updating them, I think a little donation here and then would really help, and therefore people can all the plugin developers, they're already informed, they can set up a link to maybe PayPal donation or for their bank accounts, and all I can do is motivate you to spend some money for the people who really create your success in the companies. Then we have 2 new podcasts, one just released yesterday from Patrick Wolf, and the other one back in August, but was released last month from Peter Ragonich. Both Vienna guys, it's just a coincidence. And thanks to Jeff Eberhardt, again, he's making this happen. He's doing all the hard work of editing the podcasts. We wouldn't find the time anymore to do this. Thanks, Jeff. Member of the month, October and November, Jeffrey Ken and Saeed Hassanpour. I don't know if I pronounced the name right. Jeff was always pretty close, and every month was always number 2 when you just count the contributions. And so finally, I'm so glad that he made it. And Saeed really make great blog posts. It's step-by-step instructions. He put a lot of effort in his blog posts. Great job, Saeed. Then we have a new Apex quiz page. We don't only have the overall settings, so you never will be able to beat Scott Wesley. I think he's always on number 1. Now we also have the statistics for the last week's Apex quiz, and you can see where you are ranked in the last week. The newsletter 5 is out. You still can achieve, if you are registered, you get it automatically, and if not, you just go to Apex World. It's in the news section, and you can access it through a website. The recorded on air shows always on YouTube. This one is also recorded and will be on YouTube. And what else? Oh, 5.1, Christmas dressing. Yeah, what we heard something from Mike that on UKOUG that it could be released shortly, and Morten found out that the feedback submission is gone, and there will be a 5.1 release soon. Yeah, I don't want to put anybody under pressure, but so if you would be a normal guy just like us, right? Um, how would you read the signs? Would you think we would get something for Christmas?
Oh, you're on mute.
In America, we have a game called Texas Hold'em, and it's about having this poker face. So you're not really like indicating, tipping your hand of what somebody's doing. And I've played thousands of hands of Texas Hold'em, and I'm giving you my best poker face right now.
So
How's
there's a
that
law in Germany. So there's a law in Germany, if you don't say anything, it's basically a yes. So if you yeah, there is. I'm right. And yes, sorry for I forgot to introduce our first guest, Sabine. Sabine, can you? We don't.
Sabina, you're still on mute, I think.
Hi, I'm still fiddling around with my computer. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Yeah, now we hear you.
Okay.
Fine. Thanks for joining the show. You are the first guest, and I also have forgotten, of course, the audience can ask questions and contribute to the discussion anytime. So the people, we are monitoring the questions, and please feel free to also contribute to any discussion we are having. So, Joel, this was a yes, right? For a Christmas present, an Apex 5.1. We don't hear you.
I'm currently in the United States of America, which is not bound by the laws of Germany. So I'm just keeping it real.
Okay, I gave it a try, at least. But shortly is pretty close, I think.
Yes, but I wouldn't spoil actually the Christmas time for my employees by having a release date around Christmas. I would expect it after Christmas.
You would expect it after Christmas or before? Or at
Afterwards.
Christmas?
So they
Afterwards.
can enjoy Christmas time.
Oh, yeah, that's smart.
Just think about what's happened in the past, right? So EA1, EA2, maybe EA3, maybe not, but definitely apex.oracle.com gets upgraded. That hasn't happened yet. And that's
Yeah,
usually a 2 to 4 week-ish period. So let's assume that Joel, the second this is done, or perhaps even, under that's the counter there, he's upgrading apex.oracle.com, I'd say January, right, would be the earliest it would be out. Having said that, if I had to bet, and I do have no inside information, I'd say early 2017.
Scott, are you Apex Rumors? Do you guys know who I personally don't know who Apex Rumors is. Are you
I
Apex
don't know who
Rumors?
she is, but I'd love to know.
Who he
Sabine,
or
you
she?
know? Sabine, you said you do know?
I have no idea who she is, but maybe, well, he or she was at DOAC, so that narrows it down a little bit.
But you said you have no idea who she is. Are we accidentally talking to Apex Rumors right now?
I don't know.
So for folks
Not me.
that are watching and are not aware of what we're talking about with regard to Apex Rumors, I'm going to put a link in the chat.
Well, there's a Twitter account called Apex Rumors, and like Mac Rumors, and we find some interesting tweets and rumors about Apex, and nobody knows who it is. Who is it?
I mean, I honestly I don't know who it is, and I've even thought before that perhaps it was somebody on the inside, or somebody on the inside is feeding them information, because in some of the past rumors, they were uncannily precise, and even uncannily precise to decisions that weren't even public yet and were changed, right? So it's a bit interesting.
Uh-huh.
I think it's David Peake.
Oh, was he at DOAG though? Because Sabine said the Apex Rumors was at DOAG.
Yes, but
How do you
there were still quite a few people.
and how do you know that he or she was at DOAG?
read the tweets.
Ah, okay. David was not. Was David at DOAG? No.
No.
Okay.
That's interesting. We could.
All right, let's
Okay.
let's
Anything-
move on to some topics here.
Yeah. Go on with you, Martin. Anything new on your side? Or open source? Any new releases?
No new releases. I will have some free time during the holidays, and I plan to use every minute of that and for some of the open source stuff. So hopefully we can close off some of these projects.
Oh, Scott? Third?
Not much. I'm just trying to wind down for the holidays as well. We've got family coming in, and projects just won't stop, which I guess is a good thing, but I do kind of want just a week to not come in my office and not use a computer. That's all I want for Christmas. That and my children to behave.
Okay. That's all I want for Christmas, not using a computer. Dan, anything new in JavaScript world or in your world? In your world.
Well, I started, surprise, I started learning a new front-end framework called Vue.js.
How's it called? How is it called?
It's spelled V-U-E, Vue.js. It's similar to React in a way in that it's kind of focused on the front-end or Vue layer. But it seems to have taken elements out of Angular, elements out of React, and sort of just it's this new framework. So it's not terribly new. It's been around for a while, but it seems to be picking up the pace and gaining in popularity. And I've been playing with it. I really enjoy it, actually. It's been really fun getting to know Vue.
Hey, Dan, can I ask you a question about this? And it's a legitimate question. I
Okay.
promise you I'm not, this isn't.
Uh-huh.
But it seems like, it's an internet meme to have a new JavaScript framework every couple months, right?
Sure.
It's
yeah.
fascinating how quickly these evolve. My question to you is, are people actually building applications for the enterprise? Are CIOs given the green light to say, okay, go ahead and do application X, Y, and Z based upon Vue.js or something like that? I truly don't know.
I certainly hope not. I think there's a place for these types of tools, and I think it's mostly in your startups, not so much in the enterprise. I think, in fact, it'd be very dangerous for an enterprise to play that game because the releases are so frequent, and oftentimes folks don't want to learn and maintain the older frameworks. They want to rewrite the apps in the newer frameworks, so you'd be in this constant, never-ending churn. So I certainly wouldn't recommend that approach for enterprises, but for the startup camp, it's a little bit different. They're a little bit more free to just sort of pick and choose from what's available at the time they're starting a project. And they often have just a focus on like one app, the app that they're creating. So I think it's a little bit different from them, and that's where I think these are being used.
Yeah, and you've got a different, I think, scalability requirement with a lot of the startups where the hope is to have millions and millions and millions of users, where an internal enterprise, they might have 400, 500, 300 people, and next year they might have 401, 402, right? 380. There's not that hyper growth, so a lot of these frameworks just don't make sense. My experience has been similar. It's more go to the enterprise to see what technology was 10 years ago versus what it is today. I've done Apex demos recently where all I've done is demo the interactive report, and people are just wowed. How does that work? How did you do that? Is that real? Is that our data? There's no way that you did that quickly, right? So, yeah, we're still trailing a little bit, I think, on the enterprise side.
Yeah.
Sabine, what do you think?
I have a question about all these JavaScript frameworks. It's to the Apex team. How are you going to decide which framework you're going to use inside Apex? Because you're going to be with it for quite a long time. So you've all read this article about learning JavaScript in 2016 with this huge list of frameworks, which was really ridiculous. So how are you going to decide whether you're going to use jQuery or what was it, D3, graphics or whatever, Jet? How do you decide?
Well, to some degree, that decision's already been made, right? That there are probably 30 to 35 different third-party components that we license and include as part of Application Express, which includes jQuery, includes jQuery UI, includes jQuery Mobile. And there's a distinction between, are we expecting our customer base to have to learn JavaScript to use these, or can we employ these ourselves and then provide functionality for people who do want to write JavaScript? So to some degree, some of these frameworks, that we're going to employ in Apex, they're already there today. And what we try to do is keep pace with the releases, but there are dependencies between these as well, right? We would have liked for Apex 5.1 to upgrade to the newer version of Jet, but that has a dependency, I believe, on jQuery UI, and that could have rippled into all of our libraries. So you're right, we have to be very precise in what we choose and how it relates to other libraries. And the reason why this is relevant is anytime we include a third-party component, we're now responsible for it. So if there's a security bug filed on some old version and we include that old version, that's ours to rectify.
Thank you.
Sabione,
What?
where did we meet the first time?
Yes, that was quite interesting, actually. It was, when I joined Oracle in '99, I had 1 week of PL SQL training, and then I was sent to my first project, which happened to be with Juergen. And on the first day, he grabbed me, took me aside, and I think you talked to me for 2 hours or something, telling me what you expect of a PL SQL developer and how things have to be done, and so on. I was just standing there, okay, right. And we had a very interesting project using mainly the HTTP package, generating HTML from the database. And I learned a lot from the discussions between you and some other developer who disagreed on many topics with you. And that was a very, very interesting, very good experience, which taught me a lot, actually.
And it turned out well, and you ended in Apex, right?
Couldn't be any better. No, I think PL SQL is still a very, very good basis to start when you want to do Apex. And if you don't know your SQL and PL SQL, you're lost.
Which we had also in the team, right? We had another colleague who were even actually much more experienced than you, and we found out later that we've had this when others then now. Can you remember?
I do.
And then I asked her if she's still planning to do any exception handling, and she said, I don't know. Do you know this discussion, what was going on?
Yes.
And it turned out she didn't understand exception handling at all, and she said, I saw this somewhere in a training. You always have to do exceptions when others then now. And it was in a productive application, very sensitive data, very public data, which can drag down the whole company, right? So PL SQL is really the most important thing.
Yes, do exception handling properly and...
or not at all. Either you do it or not at all. And at least you get the error. And from there, you started with PL SQL, and then what was the next step?
Let me think. I've done different projects with HTMLDB, done plain PL SQL projects, some reporting with SQL, mainly using SQL Developer during the last years, which leads me to my next question, actually, to the Apex team. What is how are you cooperating with the SQL developer team? Are there any plans to, well, replace the SQL workshop by a web SQL developer, for instance, like Apex rumor suspected?
There was talk. So for those who don't know, there will be I think it's SQL Developer Web, and I think it will actually ship as part of ORDS, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Dan? So there will be functionality that looks very much like SQL Developer, but you don't even have to have Apex, right? You can browse your objects, run arbitrary SQL commands. I mean, really pretty slick. In the absence of Apex and anything really installed there. And there was discussions. We had internal meetings before of, we really haven't advanced SQL Workshop that much over the past year, so should we just use this instead? And we were originally going to do that. So this is where Apex Rumors, this is an example where Apex Rumors, I didn't know where their source of information was. So we thought about doing it, but then Mike Hitchwa, our vice president, is back to believing that we should still continue to own our own SQL Workshop, just from a consistency standpoint, from a UI standpoint. And so the immediate answer to your question, Sabina, is no, there are no plans to have that replace SQL Workshop in Apex.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other points where you maybe cooperate or use the others' components?
Yeah. So for those who don't know, there's a peer of mine, Chris Rice, who we both report to Mike Hitchwa, our vice president of database tools, and Chris is responsible for many things, right? SQL Developer, SQL CL, ORDS, the PL SQL Web Toolkit, XE, right? So lots of things, and we work very closely together. Obviously, we have to. Because we're dependent upon a number of things like Oracle REST Data Services. That's our strategic direction for the gateway for Apex. That's used today on all of our hosted sites, used on the cloud, etc. RESTful Services, which is part of Apex today, that is really based upon ORDS. In SQL Developer, we've done a bunch of work on the database cloud on Express and Schema Service, and there's functionality in SQL Developer to establish your cloud connection. SQL CL has the ability to import Apex applications and export them, so it's just ongoing, right? I mean, really, we work quite closely, and quite closely and well, I should say.
Good to hear.
And for those that want to find out, or just want to see little screenshots of SQL Web, is that what it's called, Joel?
I think it was called SQL Developer Web.
Or Web, okay. I've seen it. You can follow Chris Rice on Twitter, and it's Chris with a K, so KRIS. And you'll see some screenshots sometimes from him or that Jeff Smith. So I'm going to open up a question. Someone really got a good point of, what do we think about Apex in 2017? Now, we just don't want to go down this 5.1 path. It is what it is. We think it's going to be released sometimes. But what do you guys think's the hot topic of development and or how to implement it with Apex in 2017? And Sabina, I'd love to start with you. Your thoughts first.
Sorry, could someone else go first, please?
Okay. Dan?
I'm not sure I quite understood the question.
What do you think of what do you think are some hot development trends that we're going to see come out in 2017, or for things to focus on 2017 aside? Okay, Joel can go first.
All right. Sorry, Dan, I'm going to talk over you here. So if you look at what Gartner and Forrester, the industry analysts, are looking at, there's a spot for Apex in the you hear low code a lot, so Apex is in this low code space. Also, these oh wait, Martin's closing his camera, so there has to be something interesting going on there. They call them these high productivity platform applications as a service, HPPAS, right? These are industry terms, not my own. And it's interesting how much leading Apex was in this space and how much it fits well into this category. So if anything else, I see Apex. And I should state that Oracle and Apex have a seat at the table with these discussions of promoting Apex in these categories. So if you talk about what are the buzzwords or the trends that are happening, Martin, I see this becoming very, very mainstream in 2017. That just these coding tools where all we do is write code instead of this more declarative interface with less code. I find that Apex becoming into the mainstream. Apex leading. How's that, Martin?
So should we stop calling Apex a declarative environment and start calling it a low-code environment?
I think we should call it all of the above.
And I have the feeling that Apex inside Oracle becomes a better visibility. Is this true?
It absolutely is. For internal application development, I'm not going to get in trouble by saying this. I think it dominates internal app dev inside Oracle. So there's many teams that are doing things with other tools, with JET, with ADF, which is we support, right? There isn't one tool for all business problems, but in terms of the number of applications that are deployed at Oracle, there's like a new Apex, app being rolled out. It seems like every week. And Mike Hitchell will send me a mail, and Vlad and our team will send me a mail saying, "Hey, came across another corporate Apex app." It's just, it's amazing. So, did that answer your question, Juergen?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I have a question for Sabina, if you don't mind. Martin, can I switch from your question?
Absolutely, and we do have a question on 5.1 that I think is really great after, so we'll go to this question first, and then I've got another question for you.
So, Sabina, you were at UKOUG Tech 15, and you were there at Tech 16 this past year, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't there, but I was watching it on Twitter, and it seemed to be even a greater community presence and greater attendance for Apex there at Tech 16 than Tech 15. Can you describe, one, is that true, and can you describe, what your impressions were of the conference and the Apex community there?
I have to admit that I haven't been to so many Apex sessions because I've seen quite a bit about 5.1 already. But I've been to David's presentation, and that was very full, and people were quite impressed about the things that he showed. So yes, it's definitely some progress, and people are really eager for 5.1. So that's not a surprise for you, I guess.
And how about the DOAG conference that was in November in Nuremberg? Did you think attendance and enthusiasm is up? Is it down? Is it the same? What's your opinion?
At the DOAG conference, I had more of that community feeling, but maybe that's because I know more people there. So maybe there's some same spirit in the UK that I didn't really get because I'm not involved so much there. But at DOAG it's definitely great, and maybe I can throw in some advert here that are prepared. This is Berlin. And the Apex Connect is going to take place in May with only Apex topics, a complete stream of SQL and PL/SQL, and one complete stream of JavaScript and UX. So if you're there in Germany or close to Germany, go there. And we have several famous people there, I think. Yes, Mark Zift is going to be there, Joel, of course, and Dan as well. Who else do we have? Martin. Is that right? Yes, many others as well. And Well, if you're in the area, can make it to Berlin somehow, you really should be there and get the complete Apex spirit. We had a great conference last year, and it's going to be even better this time. We have some special kinds of events that we didn't have last year. So the address is, let's see if we get it.
That's apex.do. We'll put it in the chat window for everyone. apex.doeg.org.
Yes,
So,
thank you.
How Odie Tug isn't complaining that we're advertising another conference there, but what are you going to do, right?
No, we cross promote. Like Niles, like with from an Odie Tug perspective, we cross promote. We're really happy with Apex Connect. We think it's a great thing, and they cross promote Kscope. They're two different conferences, and they're both great things. We want the community to grow.
I mean, things are growing. I talked to the organizers of the Polish Oracle user group. They want to have an Apex track next year. I think in May as well at the Great Lakes Oracle Conference, they have. We're working with Odie Tug and Insum to have an Apex day. So I think Martin and Scott, you guys will be there. Is that right? All right. So at a dedicated Apex day, it's things are really picking up.
Yes, and I think even the Scandinavian countries are planning to have some kind of Apex-only event. I'm really looking forward to that as well.
So Sabine, at Apex Connect 2017, I think your talk is on IoT and Apex. Is that correct, or home automation?
No, that's Anya's topic.
Okay, I got. Then what are you're talking about, right?
I will be talking about SQL Developer.
Oh, okay, and what specifically?
My favorite features of SQL Developer.
And if you had to do one favorite feature right now, what would it be?
That is still the copy selected column headers, which is maybe doesn't sound too intuitive, but if you're in the data grid and you have some values selected and you want only those columns in your statement, then you just use the right-click menu, copy selected column headers, and can put them into your SQL statement. So if you have select asterisks from something, you can narrow the columns down to what you actually want, which is really nice. Saves a lot of typing.
Didn't know that.
Sorry?
I didn't know that. I hear it for the first time. Oh.
Sabina, sorry, one last question we're getting from about Apex Connect 2017. Gemma Wood is asking how many sessions are in English for those that are in North America that may want to go there?
Ooh, you caught me there.
Go to Apex World, and it should be there. I hope Michael has. Let me look it up for you.
It's already there.
I think there's at least one track. Let's just say that there's always one room in English from last year.
Quite sure it will be half of the
Apex
sessions.
Connect will have around 33 tracks in English.
Okay.
And we'll have around 60 overall. So, yeah. So our international guests should be fine.
Great. Joel, I've got a question for you. Or Juergen, do you mind if I'm just going through the questions?
I just want to mention or ask, I mean, you also have a organizational role at DOAG?
No official role. I'm one of the elected representatives, so for the development community, and we also have some tech leaders who have a certain topic, but I don't have my own topic. So, well, I go to the regular meetings of the development community, and I help here and there, and reading abstracts and doing things, but I don't have an official role. So I'm not one of the executives, for instance.
Okay, thanks. Martin?
Yes, I'm going through the questions, Joel. There's one question, I think it's really good, from Elizabeth Garcia. She's asking, and I hope I'm paraphrasing this properly, that she's got a bunch of pages in interactive reports, and when 5.1 is released, she wants to upgrade them to interactive grids. What is the process that someone would have to take to do that?
I mean, good question. we have a wizard that takes you from a tabular form to an interactive grid. To go from interactive report, I don't believe we have a built-in migration. Any of my team that's on the call can chime in there, but I'm almost certain that we don't have a direct migration path to go from interactive report to interactive grid. So it's our eventual goal that the read-only interactive grid. Oh, somebody's chiming in here. Yeah, coming in 5.2. Safe harbor. Yeah. So safe harbor. So that's coming in 5.2. But it's our eventual goal that the read-only interactive grid ultimately will replace the interactive report. But that's not going to be the case in 5.1. Just some of the functionality and screen flow isn't the same as you get with a report. So what's the path? Recreate it.
Okay. And another great question from Morton Brenton regarding the whole Apex 5.1 upgrade process that you guys have gone through. What has been the biggest challenge you found?
With the upgrade process, or just
not the development going from 5 to 5.1.
Yeah, I mean, so has it taken longer than expected? I'll say yes and no, right? When 5.0 came out, I issued a blog post that said no more multi-year development, release cycles. We'll get it on year, right? That's our goal, and here we are, fast approaching a couple of years. So much for that. But I mean, I will say that the team did a survey of what was out there from third-party components and made a strategic decision of, do we try to license some grid or build our own? And just based upon our requirements, it was really built from the ground up. So I like to think, and I say this, Dan can even back me up on this, I like to think that we employ some of the brightest JavaScript developers on the planet, and they would tell you as well, just to do this well takes time and planning, and it's evolved well. So there are known bugs in interactive grid, and we sort of, we have to, we can't have absolutely it be 1,000% perfect from day one, but I think the leap forward, especially with respect to tabular forms, is just night and day, and this is our strategic direction, and I think everybody will be happy. So has it taken more time than expected? Yes, if you look at my blog post. No, given the quality and the level of intelligence that our team has put in this, I would say no. So I like to say there are some teams that have, even outside of Oracle, that have 200 people. And there are many teams that deliver lots of things, and I like to think that we have really smart, focused, bright, hardworking people do a few things really, really well. And I think the jet chart integration is an example of that, and I think the interactive grid is another shining example of that.
Yeah, just to dovetail off that, I mean, does anyone, I'm trying not to be super blunt, does anyone care that it's taken a little bit longer when we know if this goes like 1.5, 1.6, 2.0, 2.1, 3, 3.1, etc. goes, the end result will be a unsurpassed high quality product. That's the one thing that I always take from how the Apex team does their development. Having inside knowledge, obviously, to this helps a little bit, but picking a date and saying on this date we're going to release software is tragic. It bothers me when customers think that way. It bothers me when companies think that way. At that point, you may as well just say, let's start dealing with how this will fail before it fails, because it's going to fail. I'm a bigger fan of the approach that Joel and his team take, where we have a set of features, and we're going to try to get that set of features in. We think it's going to be 2017, 2016, 2015, but only when it's done, and we're happy that it's done, and we may even pull features out that we can't get done because we've got to get something out. That's when we release. And we all give them a hard time because they don't want to stick to a date. I applaud them. As soon as you put a date, the media goes nuts, people go nuts, everybody holds you to that date. I mean, look at what's going on with Apple and their stupid little earbuds, right? Oh, we've got this revolutionary thing, and it's going to be out, and now it's delayed. I mean, the media is treating this like this is the worst disaster ever. It doesn't matter, right? And shame on Apple for picking a date and not sticking to it with the resources they have. But that's the danger of picking these dates and just saying, hey, we're going to have Apex 5.1 ready to go on January 15th or December 15th or whatever. And then when it's not, everybody's mad. Or when it's ready on that date and it sucks, everybody's mad. So I kind of like their approach. I'm still going to give them a hard time about release dates, as I hope everybody else will. But I do think that's a much better way to release software. Thoughts? Does anyone else agree with me, or am I kind of on my own island as usual?
There's a part of me that wants to play devil's advocate here and say I'd like to see more frequent releases so that we don't have to wait so long between getting new features. But like you, I think just having a little bit of insight into what really goes on behind the scenes to increase the frequency of release cycles take a lot of effort, because there's so much testing, so many things that go into an actual production release that just doing the releases would start to eat into the time that the developers have to actually do work on new features. So I think there does have to be a balance. And kind of going back to what we were saying before about all these new JavaScript libraries, in a way, it's kind of nice not having too many versions that we have to worry about. You know, sometimes you get a new release of Apex and there's so many new features, it almost feels like you have to relearn Apex. And it's nice when you only have to do that maybe once every couple of years rather than every 3 or 6 months, you know. So it takes a balance, but I think I agree with you ultimately. I can't play devil's advocate in this case because I do agree with you. It's probably right where it needs to be.
I think it becomes an issue when it becomes when companies that are looking to adopt Apex choose not to because of the slow release cycle. That is something. I know we're always at two different ends of what we're talking about. Apex is a very long one, and some of these JavaScript frameworks get released daily almost. And there's a sweet spot in between. And I have gone through that conversation with people before, where you're introducing them to Apex, and they're like, well, what's the release cycle outside of patching? And when you say it's a year or two, sometimes that can be a deterrent for certain CTOs at large organizations, because they want to see a more consistent thing. I don't think that's actively happening in there. I think the product that what Joel was talking about, the fact that it's solid and very solid every single time it goes out, it plays a huge part. However, there will be this threshold where people say, we can't afford a 2-year or a 1.5-year release cycle, and they may choose a different technology based on that.
I'm not doubting that, but I have talked to exactly 0 customers who've shied away from Apex because of a long release cycle.
Yeah, I agree. Never heard that.
I'm sure they're out there. I mean, I'm not doubting that they're not, but it's very, very, very seldom. And in fact, in a way, I mean, I've still got people on. We're working on a 3.0, 3.1 upgrade, right? I've got a client in production on 4.2, so there's plenty of people that you could do it more frequently, and they're just going to say, yeah, that's great, we don't have time. So in that case, it benefits people who are a little bit slower on the uptake.
Yeah, so the one thing I'll tell you, and we might as well just cut to the chase here. So this past weekend, on Friday night, so as most people know, we have an external instance of Apex, right? apex.oracle.com. That's the kick the tires, let me see what Apex can do. Internally at Oracle, we have a site called apex.oracle Corp, and it's run by Product Development IT, and it is a service for anybody in the company to come along and build their own application, and it's used by virtually every line of business inside Oracle, from sales to application development to legal to HR to everything, right? I want to make a request, I can start building my database application within minutes. And this is used for serious production applications, manufacturing and distribution, Fusion apps development, just you name it. And so it's a little bit of our petri dish, but unlike apex.oracle.com, where that's, people just have, they're kicking the tires, these are real applications that people have used for years and are used by tens of thousands of people inside Oracle. And this past weekend, we did an upgrade to the pre-release version of Apex 5.1 to 4,342 workspaces. And there's been a few issues that have come in really good bugs that we never would have found with regression testing or on our own, and we've resolved them. And really, I find that the number of upgrade issues, because to us, if somebody upgrades to the next version of Apex and it doesn't look and feel and operate and behave exactly like it did before, that's a disaster and that's a bug, because there's costs associated with this. There's training costs, right? It's just you break the application. For a CIO to say the Apex upgrade broke my application, that's a disaster for us. And so we spent a lot of time on this, and that's why we use this instance. So we did that this past weekend, and to thousands of applications, and there's been a handful of issues, but relative to 5.0, it's been fairly light. And then just now, we have on the login message for apex.oracle.com, we're planning to install really beginning on Friday, the early adopter, not the early adopter, the pre-release of Apex 5.1. And that's going to happen starting on Friday. And this is really the inspiration of our Vice President, Mike Hitchwa, and then Christian Neumiller on our team is the one who implemented this. Mike really wanted us to reduce the amount of downtime for any upgrade to Apex. And so we have this documented multi-phase approach where, as most people who do Apex upgrades, you install a new schema, and that can happen even while Apex is running. And then we go into a degraded phase where Apex applications can still continue to run, but you can't save application builder changes or save interactive reports. And then we do a complete blackout, right? We stop ORDs, and we do the actual upgrade, the remaining part of the upgrade, and turn it on live. And for Apex.Oracle Corp, we reduced the estimated outage time of, it was, I think, 6.5 hours to, it was like 30 minutes, which was amazing considering we have 4,000 workspaces. And that's why you're going to see on Friday the pre-release version of Apex 5.1 on apex.oracle.com. It's actually going to start at 6 a.m. our time, Eastern time, and it'll be in a degraded phase, but the Apex applications will still continue to run. And then at some point in time, we'll have the pre-release version installed there. So back to your tea leaves, Scott. Apex.oracle.com is going to be upgraded to Apex 5.1 this weekend.
Right. So, Joel, I've got a quick question on that. It's a really cool process, by the way. During that 30-minute time frame, because I've never really encountered this during an upgrade, if I were to hit an app, let's say on apex.oracle.com, what do I actually see?
What do you mean? In the degraded or the
in the blackout? Blackout.
Well, on apex.oracle.com, they'll actually stop ORDs, and you'll get some generic message page, right, that says, this is a known outage. But if you ever tried to access an Apex application while you're doing a patch or something, I mean, that's a disaster, right? I've tried internally on our corporate systems to compile a package that is, has a huge number of dependencies and is hit, and I've brought the systems down, and I've had to sheepishly call IT and say, please help me recover from the disaster. Because you just get wedged because you're waiting to compile this package, and there's all these sessions which are actually running that package, so you get in the queue, and now everybody else gets in the queue behind you, and it's just a disaster. So you should never do that. It's hot. Yeah. Sure. But we've limited the amount of time for which you have to disable active sessions.
Okay.
Let me ask Sabine some questions. I'm really interested. You're a woman inside the IT business. Do you feel treated any differently, or do you feel, I don't know, would you wish to be treated somehow else from, what is your experience as a woman in the IT business?
Well, I consider myself pretty lucky, actually, because I think I've met many nice people in IT. I've read about women who really made really bad experiences. But, well, for me it was right from the start a very good experience. And I've always found helpful people to help me get along with problems I had or so. And to everyone who's, well, thinking about women colleagues or so, just treat them normally, like people. We don't want any special treatment. Sometimes people make such a fuss and, oh, we've got a woman on the team, blah, blah, blah. That's absolutely not necessary. Of course, there is a problem, I think, like we always have this, on UK OUG, we also had a round table, how can we attract more women into IT? And that's definitely a good topic and a good question to ask. But well, with the women who are there, don't make a fuss about them. Just treat them normally, and maybe be aware of a certain bias. That's definitely there, even if, well, especially the ones that you don't realize. I think that's a definition of bias, isn't it? So be conscious. Be conscious of it. Let everyone stop or finish their talk and don't interrupt. But yeah, be aware that that there might be some bias. That would help already. And don't discourage people, and don't make jokes on gender are funny sometimes, but we've heard very, very many, so maybe they're not so funny anymore. Yes, it's just common sense. Treat people like you want to be treated, regardless of their gender. I'd say that's the main point.
Have you been always interested in IT right from the beginning?
Yes, I have actually. Well, the first point was actually when my father had a computer for his work with some basic programming and some very basic games on there, and we started changing the games together, and yeah, made little programs ourselves. And well, at school we were given computer classes, but very late actually, and our teacher was not very far ahead of us, and so it was like a cooperation in learning, and sometimes some of my colleagues explained things to the class and then the teacher again, and so we learned together. It was still very well, being pioneers during those days at school. I don't know what it's like nowadays, but I will know soon because my son is 11 years old, so let's see what they will learn at school.
You don't teach him Apex?
Not yet. Not yet.
So on that note, Sabine, if you were to tell someone who's, let's say, just recently graduated, maybe knows a bit of Oracle, heard about this Apex thing, what would you recommend to them to really get started and learn it?
Go to meetups, talk to people, go to apexoracle.com. There are so many resources there, but well, I think it's really helpful to team up with someone who already has some knowledge and learn from them. That's what I really find helpful. But I know people learn differently. Some read a book from front to end, or yeah, some people watch videos. Personally, I hate watching videos because someone else is setting the pace. And when I read a text, I can read it at my own speed. So there are many different ways and many different resources, but I would really suggest go to meetups, talk to people about your special problems. You always find someone who has a solution there or an idea how to solve things. And read Twitter, ask questions, get to know people.
That's a great answer.
Sabine, speaking of Twitter, so you are the Twitter queen. So if you want to follow one person, if you're interested in Apex or Oracle technology, and you just follow Sabine, you follow everybody who is important. Or how do you deal with all these tweets?
Well, I read them instead of watching television, actually.
Oh.
Instead of well, sitting in front of the telly, I just well, go through them, and I'm thinking, well, this might be interesting for my followers, so I hit retweet or get something from a blog or so, and think, well, my followers might like this, and so it's mainly tech related. Sometimes it's a joke or a picture or so, but I try to stick to the topics and not to get distracted too much from the Apex, Oracle, SQL CL, SQL developer things.
But that's really interesting because I really have the feeling that you don't just automatically retweet everything. So we really read the tweets.
I read the tweets. I don't read all the articles behind the links. If I know the person who's tweeting about it, I kind of trust that it's something proper. Sometimes I hope that people that follow me read the tweets, read the blog entry or whatever, and give some feedback, so we can start a discussion on it. And so, well, it's a mixture of things I want to remember myself, that I want my followers to read, and yeah.
Great. Any open questions? 1 minute left.
1 minute, I think. What are your New Year's resolutions?
Fair enough.
I've got two actually. I want to become an ODTAG member finally, and I want to learn Universal Theme.
Want to learn Universal Theme?
Yes, I haven't used it yet.
I made a New Year's resolution back in like 1989 to not make New Year's resolutions, and I have kept it ever since.
Wow.
So I'm pretty proud of that.
So
Figured it was the easy way out.
any goals for 2017?
I signed up for a half marathon, and I got about 15 pounds to lose, and I want to do a half marathon in April. We'll see if I can make it.
Oh, cool.
Great. Martin? Dan?
I have a bunch of things I want to learn. Really, the challenge is going to be sort of isolating it, whittling that list down some, but I suppose I have a few days left to do that.
And for me, it's find some better, and in Apex and technical perspective, it's find always the newest, latest, and greatest tools to be more efficient. Some of which probably testing. That's going to be a big area, I think, in 2017 for myself.
Great, Dan. We have 7 o'clock here in Germany, at least, so 1 o'clock in your time. Yeah, I would say thanks for attending the show. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and thanks, Joe, for sharing us that apexorbital.com will be upgraded on Friday. And yeah, we will see all of you next year in any conference. And I don't know when the next on-air show will be scheduled, but we will let you know.
Calendar year 2017.
Thank you. Safe harbor statement. Bye, guys.
Joel, Juergen, and Dan, can you stay on after? I need to talk. Just stay on this. I need to talk to you guys.
Sure. Happy holidays, everybody. See you next year.
Bye.
Thanks, Avina. Wait, where did Joel go? He was supposed to stay on.
He didn't realize, I think.
Oh, hold on. Let me message him. Can you?